Hey guys, MythLearn here. Just got a question from Devil Child Art, a friend over on Tumblr, and had some questions about how I textured hair. I kind of grabbed this guy because it's actually commissioned for someone of their OC from World of Warcraft, and I wanted to show you not only how to sort of create hairbrushes and work with them. I have a whole tutorial on brush making itself, and I will get that uploaded a little later. But what we're looking at here is, this is Rayagos, her character, and we have a warm, cool contrast. So he's got that purple skin tone and the purple undertones in his hair, but then it ends up being bright blue. So blending is kind of like questionable. The first thing I wanted to cover is when you are making hairbrushes, which you can actually do for yourself. I've got a little set over here in the corner. I don't know if you can see those. I'm going to just grab another layer here for you really quick. But let's get some color. I'm doing a select here. I'm going to go up to brush. Right now what I have is a strand brush, and what you want to do with these is this, I think, started its life as one of like the sparkle brushes originally that's just do whatever you want in Photoshop. But I have a Wacom, so obviously I've got a lot of flexibility as far as pressure sensitivity. This is what I use towards the end when I'm done and I'm teasing out just some single strands. It can be a really nice brush to use. I'm not going to start out with that, but I just wanted to put it against his skin here so you could kind of see. It tapers to one end, and it's just barely noticeable in the brush itself. My opacity is at 100%, flows at 100%. The brush itself has some shape dynamics and some transfer and some smoothing. You can turn smoothing on and off, but I pretty much always leave it on for hair. So you're kind of looking at some stranding here. If I grab my other brush, I like this one the best, and if you look at it, it's actually got some triangle shapes in it and some little spots. You really want spotty brushes. You don't want anything solid, because that flecked look is what is actually giving you your hair strands. So you can see if I really touch this softly. People use this for fur brushes too. I mean, just depending on how hard you press. I mean, I can create a fur texture right over here really easy. All fur a little darker towards the bottom, lighter towards the top. I mean, wolf fur right there. Easy, over and done with. I'm actually just going to bring that color over here really quick. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to grab that new layer. It always does MUL layers for me. That's what I prefer because it lets me play with opacity. But again, you've got that kind of cool color, the blue in his hair and the purple here in the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm really going to exaggerate this. It's not going to be how it looks. You'll notice that with the base tones I kept everything pretty solid, and I used some of the smudge brush to just move the hair to give it a realistic shading and layering effect. So that's one of the ways you can kind of just control how your hair looks. I'm going to, this is like really exaggerated, my brush strokes aren't all that great, but you're like, wow, that's really bright, but you've started a new layer, so if you decide you like the stroke work and you like the way it's laying, you can just drop your opacity. And what I always tell people is, as far as shading goes, remember that you adjusted the opacity, so now any color you're going to use over this is going to look really different, and it won't color sample the same either, so if you're using that. Okay, so let's go to dark here. I really want to get some dark in here. Whenever you start playing with light, you always want to break it up with some dark. It keeps it more realistic. You'll find that there's like little patches. I'm going to make this brush a little narrower. You'll find like little darker patches in hair, especially in curves and falls. So we've got that here, and I'm just really quickly flecking that in so you can take a look. I'm going to create another layer because that's just not dark enough for me, and I want to do a different layer. So you can see as I'm kind of going here along the outside edge, I'm just giving that natural stranding to the hair. It doesn't look ridiculous anime, like super, super overdone. I'm going to come in here. You're always going to be darker at the roots. Pro tip for blonde hair, which I could do a whole tutorial on, which blonde and red are their own animals. Always go with a olive green base for blonde hair, pretty much, and silvers, blues, and browns actually work pretty good. But for now, we're gonna start bringing the color up in this. Now see, I did that purple. That was kind of like a light purple. We're going to bridge the gap here, and we're not going to just make it super dramatic because it'll look really weird. So I'm going to start stranding in some of this blue. Naturally, I'm looking at the light source in this picture. If you go a little bit over, we made this an overlay, so you can just grab your eraser brush, get in here and clean up where you go over. Sometimes I fail to do that. Flick it over. You can go a lot darker if you want. You can see it's really kind of severe, too severe, so that would be too dark for me, and I'd want to go back and correct that and kind of push it more into the mid-range of the blues. One of the other things you want to consider when you're painting hair and you're doing any unnatural color like this with, like especially with night elves, is saturation can get ridiculous really fast. So if this is something you're going to want to print later, you may find yourself actually going into adjust hue and saturation, and you actually want to be almost a lot lower on saturation than you think you're going to need, especially unless you're printing on a poster jet. There are some differences between the way inkjet and laser jet print, and you're going to see that in your work, and you're going to want to adjust for it if anything's going to print. The other thing I wanted to cover really quick while I'm thinking of it, I'm going to switch brushes again. I'll just show you how to do some teasing while I'm talking about facial hair. One of the things about facial hair, especially in guys, if you're kind of looking at this guy because he's got some neck beard going on here, it's really cute, is that hair pattern growth goes in different directions. So, you know, the upper lip, the curve of the lip down the side, and under the lip are kind of all going their own direction, and then between neck and beard itself, especially when you're foreshortening at the neck here where jawline meets, you kind of want to push things a different direction, otherwise it all blends into one and they just look like they have a lump for a neck. So basically, if you're looking at his jawline, I'm going to stipple here just so you can kind of see. We've got the hair pattern like this, but then on the neck, it actually grows upward a little bit. So that's one of the ways you can differentiate between jaw, is pushing your brush a different direction so that there is clearly a difference in hair pattern. And that can be a lifesaver, especially when you're trying to go between necks are hard to shade to begin with, and when jawline with guys that have really strong pronounced jaws, that's a really great way to kind of differentiate that without overdoing it. The other thing I wanted to show you really quick is, since we're using unnatural colors, this is not something you want to do. Dodge and burn is something you want to try to avoid doing on skin because it can get orangey really fast. For example, here, I'll grab the side of his neck and see how it almost looks bruised. I mean, he's purple, so I can get away with that, but if that's orange, it's going to be pumpkin orange, that kind of peachy color that human skin has. Not necessarily a good idea, but you can get away with it to an extent. But hair makes life easier. So we're going to hop up here. Make sure you're on the right layer, but I'll just do this really exaggerated hair. So that would actually be a highlight area, but we're going to make it a low light area just so you can see. So you can use dodge and burn on hair to create shadowing. I'm going to bump this up so we can see it. Now right here, see that curve in his hair? That's where you would naturally see a shadow. I got to make sure I'm on both layers when I'm doing this because we have a couple layers up and down. So we're going to assume here that you see a shadow. And then of course, where the darkest area of shadow is, the brightest area of light is going to immediately follow. They butt right up against each other. So what I'm going to do is grab dodge. And I'm going to lift this a little bit. I'm about 25% exposure here really quick. We're going to pop some dodge in here, and that's going to give you that feeling of highlight and shine. But you'll notice, like, the anime thing to do is to put just this big chunking streak through the middle. And that doesn't look particularly natural to me, so one of the things I will do is, now that I've done the dodge and burn, I'm going to create a whole new layer. I did layer 13 right here. And what I'm going to do is come up in here, grab my brush, and I'm going to just brush through in a couple of places with some dark so that we have some natural stranding. I would pay my headset to never turn off in the middle of a stream again. But that's one of the ways you can create just some really nice natural looking hair. Don't forget to tease down to the end. You kind of want to pull it down. Like here you can see, that's why I usually do stranding last, like the really fine stranding, but I'm going to come down here and just nudge it with a darker color. And if we decide, you know, over here, since this is just where the light is falling in this picture, you want to do something a little brighter, again, the way you tease with the brush is going to change the way the hair pattern is shaped and change the fall. And again, if you go over a little bit, you're on your another layer here, so you're good. Don't panic, you can just erase it. But that's really kind of a rough rundown. So Devil Child, thanks for the question. I appreciate everything, and you folks have a wonderful day. Hopefully this helps. If it's not how you work and it's not going to work for you, that's totally okay. Do it your own way and make yourself happy. I mean, your art is for you. Have a great afternoon. Take care.